Welcome. Today we're looking at the EPD tab on the Canadian Simmental Association search site. So you can see here we've looked up a fairly popular Simmental bull, CNS Dream On. We'll use him as our example today. At the top of the screen we can see some basic details about the bull, birth date, that type of information. And when we initially look up an animal on the search site, the first tab that shows up is their pedigree, so extended pedigree. What we're really interested in today is a second tab with the EPD or expected progeny difference. So if we click on that tab, we can see that it's arranged in three sections: growth, carcass, and percentile ranks. We can also see that the EPDs are from the most current evaluation, January 21st, 2019 in this case. So in the growth section, we'll start with the calving ease. So that reflects if a bull is used on first calf heifers, what's the likelihood we'll have to assist heifers, higher number being easier calving. So Dream On we can see is 15.3 for calving ease, 0.91 accuracy, so very high accuracy. Its percentile rank is a 2. So to summarize, if he were used on first calf heifers, there's about 2% of the bulls in the breed that would have an easier time calving their calves out of those heifers, and about 98% of the bulls would have a little more difficult time calving out of those heifers. Again, birth weight next to that is in pounds, 0.3, high accuracy again, and a percentile rank of 10. So if we made a Dream On to a group of cows, there's about 10% of the bulls in the breed that would have lighter birth weight calves, and about 90% of the bulls would have calves with heavier birth weights on average. Next up, we see weaning weight. Again, same idea, his EPD of 66.6 and a percentile rank of 70. So these percentile ranks are compared against the current Canadian calves. That's all the calves born within the last 2 years in Canada. Yearling weight, 87.9, percentile rank of 90. So roughly 90% of the bulls, if they were made to the same group of cows, would actually have heavier calves at a year of age than the calves from Dream On. If we look at milk, we move into the next step. So that it refers to if we keep daughters out of the bull. How much more will their calves weigh at weaning due to the maternal influence of those daughters? So here we see Dream On with a percentile rank of 100. So basically we know that Dream On daughters don't milk very heavily compared to most Simmental bulls in the country. And we would see that we would expect those calves from those daughters to be lighter based on their maternal contribution to those calves. If we look at maternal calving ease, so MCE, that's next. The bull's got an EPD of 9, again high accuracy, but he's in the top 5% of the breed for that trait. So basically if we keep daughters out of Dream On, we would expect those daughters to calve very easily as first calf heifers. About 5% of the bulls in the breed would sire heifers that calve more easily. Most bulls, 95% or so, would breed heifers or produce heifers that calve slightly more difficulty. If we move over a column, we see maternal weaning weight. That contains half the weaning weight EPD and all the milk EPD. Basically, the genetics, if we keep daughters from the bull, they can pass on half the sire's DNA for weaning weight and provide all the maternal environment. Again, Dream On's in the bottom of the breed for maternal weaning weight. We know that those daughters won't have a lot of performance to feed to their calves. Next up, we see stayability or longevity is a way to think about it. What's the probability that if we use a bull and keep his daughters, that they'll stay in the cow herd for a long time? We can see high accuracy again, but Dream On's in the top 20% of the breed for stayability. So basically, there's about 80% of the bulls in the breed that would sire daughters that don't stay in the herd as long as daughters from Dream On. So they're fairly long-lived cattle. The next table here, we see index and rank. There's no accuracy. So these two indexes are API, all-purpose index, and TI, terminal index. And those refer to if we used a bull in different situations. So the API, we would use a bull to breed to our cow herd, retain heifers, and the remainder of the calves would get marketed directly to a processor, sold on a value-based grid, so premium for yield and marbling. Terminal index, we're not keeping any heifers. We're marketing all those calves through the feedlot and on the value-based grid. So we can see here that Dream On, with his API of 140.76, is in the top 2% of the breed. So fits that first scenario very well, retaining heifers, marketing offspring. For the terminal index, he's in the 15th percentile. So 15% of the bulls are better suited to a system where those calves are all marketed through the feedlot and sold on a carcass-based grid. Beneath that, we can see another table that shows number. This shows how many progeny were evaluated. So progeny for birth weight, Dream On has 13,159. For weaning weight, 10,800. For yearling weight, 3,451. And for calving ease, 3,767. These progeny come from all the associations that have calves reported from Dream On. So that would include, like, for example, the American Simmental and the Canadian Simmental. We can see that the calving ease progeny is a lot lower than the birth weight progeny. That's because we only use progeny for calving ease from first calf heifers. Cows don't express a lot of differences in calving ease. They basically all calve unassisted. We do, however, use all the birth weight progeny when we evaluate for calving ease. Below that, we run into carcass. We can see that Dream On, again, organized the same way. Carcass weight, ribeye area in square inches, fat in inches, and marbling in USDA marbling scores. His carcass weight EPD is 17.2. He's in the 95th percentile, so 5% of the bulls available today would have lighter carcass weights on their progeny. Most bulls will sire heavier carcasses. But if we look at his ribeye, 0.81, we can see that he jumps all the way up to the 40th percentile, so only 40% of the bulls will sire bigger ribeyes than Dream On. If we look at his fat number in inches, 0.114 or minus 0.114. He's in the 85th percentile. Fat works the inverse of most traits, so we want leaner cattle, more yield. We can see that 85% of the bulls will sire leaner carcasses than Dream On. If we look at the marbling number again, 0.02, he's up in the top 10% of the breed, so fairly high marbling, which explains a lot of his high percentile ranks for API and TI, where those calves are sold with a premium for yield and marbling. Again, same type of table with growth, shows number of progeny included with carcass weight, PCW, progeny with ribeye area, progeny with back fat, and progeny with marbling. So those are cattle that were actually harvested, slaughter cattle, that were harvested at a plant and measured. If we look at ultrasound records, so PUREA is progeny for ultrasound ribeye. He's got 2,139. Back fat, 2,158, and ultrasound intramuscular fat, 2,161. So a lot of progeny, again, explains the high accuracy for those carcass traits. And finally below, we've talked about the percentile ranks already, but we can see each of the traits. This line down the middle would be breed average. Green bars are where the bull fits above average for that trait. Blue bars would be below average. So Dream On's a good example. He's got significant green and significant blue, so he's definitely a bull that works as a good example. All the percentile ranks presented on the CSA website are in relation to the current Canadian population. So that's all the Simmental cattle born in Canada in the last 2 years. If we look at this same bull at the American Simmental site, the EPDs and the accuracy should be the same, but the percentile ranks may be different because he'll be compared to a US population rather than the Canadian population. And finally, just to wrap it up, at the bottom of the screen we'll have breed average. So that's the Canadian breed average, and again, that's those current calves. So all the calves born in Canada within the last 2 years. So we can see the EPD for calving ease, birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight, milk, maternal calving ease, maternal weaning weight, stayability, and then on to the carcass traits, that carcass weight, ribeye area, fat thickness, and marbling score. And last but not least, we see the all-purpose index and the terminal index averages. So just the EPD screen gives you a good idea of where the bull fits within the population. Obviously, bulls aren't all going to be in the top 1% for every trait, and certain bulls will fit certain roles more appropriately than others. So we can use the numbers just to pick bulls that fit our selection goals and move us in the direction we need to go. So with that, thank you for viewing the video, and hopefully this helps.